Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Purple People Podcast. I'm Adam Carlson. That's Kyle Smith over there.
What's up, everybody?
I'd like to welcome everyone to episode number 232 of the Purple People Podcast. This one is titled Homeward Bound. And if you notice that Mr. West isn't here tonight, that is because he is having some pretty severe internet issues over there in Iowa, so we're hoping that clears up for him pretty soon and we can have him back next week.
Two-man ship. We'll figure it out, though.
We will hold down this fort as best we can. I think Mr. West is going to be hanging out in the live chat, though. They're on YouTube, so if you're watching live with us, you can interact with him there. Meanwhile, we've got a short list of quick hits and some stuff to talk about here, so let's do it.
232 episodes, man. Can you believe it?
Every time I look at that number, it blows my mind, especially considering we only do like once a week. If we were one of those shows that went live after the game, live before the game, put a couple in between, 232 ain't that much. But since we only go once a week and cover everything in a week, man, 232 is insane.
It's crazy. I remember joining you guys on episode number 89 before Mike Zimmer was even the coach. I still remember that. And now we're in the 200s. It's crazy.
It is pretty impressive, that's for sure. Let's get into the quick hits, though. The week started off pretty bad. We had Mackenzie Alexander placed on injured reserve. Of course, he's a young cornerback. We're hoping to see him develop into something special, hopefully to replace Terrence Newman or some other veteran cornerback. But in his place, they brought up C.J. Ham from the practice squad, brought him to the active roster. I like both these young guys. I think they both have some potential. C.J. Ham didn't see any action this week against the Green Bay Packers, but there's always hope we can see a little bit of him next week.
We'll see. We'll see if AP plays next week. Final game of the season for us next week, but I was glad to see him be one of the names that was signed to the active roster.
Absolutely. We had another guy land on injured reserve, Tom Johnson. Now, a lot of people may hear the name Tom Johnson and just think, backup defensive tackle. But Tom Johnson is a guy that can step in. Ooh, I said it. He's a guy who, get started early.
Sure did.
He can step in when needed and play high-level defensive tackle when asked. But they brought in another guy. They swapped in one Johnson for another as Toby Johnson came back. Nice to see him getting a couple signing bonuses there. And I enjoy watching him as well.
Yeah, I mentioned this before on another show. I follow him on social media. He's always in the gym. He's always grinding and trying to work hard. So I like those kind of guys coming in. Sucks to hear about Tom Johnson. Luckily, it wasn't one of the starters, but we've said this before on the show. He could be a starter somewhere else. He's a very good role player, like you said. He's a good key depth piece on this defensive line. So get well, Tom Johnson and Mackenzie Alexander.
Yeah, it's that fresh rotation of players on the defensive line that helps lead to success for this Vikings team. And Tom Johnson is a big part of that, along with Danielle Hunter and other faces that just don't get the glory that they deserve. So hopefully he'll be back healthy next year.
Especially Danielle Hunter, Pro Bowl snub. Segue to your next quick hit.
That is true. Going into the 4 Vikings that were named to the Pro Bowl, Everson Griffin, Harrison Smith, Xavier Rhodes, Cordero Patterson. And if I were being honest, I would put Rhodes in there over Everson Griffin this year, even though I do think Everson Griffin played at a high level. It makes me wonder why he was chosen over Hunter, even though Hunter had more production and less play time.
Yeah, I wonder that as well. It's been on a lot of Vikings outlets and chatter. I think the reason, I think you and I both would agree this, because starting every week is him on one side and Brian Robinson on the other. I think it's because Danielle Hunter's not a starter per se, but the numbers are incredible for him to be just a role player or, giving Brian Robinson a rest and he comes in a lot. He's been doing great things. He's going to be damn good for us for a while.
Absolutely agree. Xavier Rhodes' first Pro Bowl, so it's good to see him get in on the fun there. Harrison Smith should be, as long as he continues playing near the level he's at, he'll be a Pro Bowl guy for many, many years.
Yeah, he's had a great season. He had a couple of games with injury, but he's just continually up there. When he's out, it's pretty obvious where quarterbacks pick on in the secondary because he's not around.
And Cordero Patterson, I believe, is having a bit of a down year after the changes to the kickoff procedure and having the ball out further with the touchback and everything. But still, he is putting up impressive numbers on his returns, and he will be the specialist.
I like it. I mean, good for him. We wanted him to step up in the receiving game, which he's done a little this year. But like you said, with the rules that just keep going away, we're eventually going to get away from kickoffs. It feels like he's been doing pretty well considering that he just keeps getting these chains, holding them down with all the different rules and how far back they got to start.
We got Dorian Foley there in the chat asking what's up. Always good to have him here with us. He's one of our favorite commenters and friends
up, Dorian?
of the podcast. Love
Hopefully
that guy
you
with
had
us.
A good Christmas, man. Merry Christmas to you.
Absolutely. And we don't have many quick hits this week, but the last one was an interesting one. The Vikings went on their plane trip to Wisconsin when they were going to go take on the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field, and their plane slid off the landing strip and landed in some snow, and they were stuck there for hours.
It was crazy. I follow a lot of guys on social media, like I tell you every week, and just seeing Cordero and Charles Johnson on Snapchat, they were very, very unhappy. They weren't being rude about it. They weren't being angry. They're just like, wow, we got a game tomorrow. Can anybody help us out? But they were on the plane for a solid 3 hours after they landed. And you got to think Minnesota, from Minneapolis to I'm not really sure where they go in Wisconsin. I know you know the name of the city, but I know it's only like a 55-minute flight. So for them to not even have an hour of time and then they're on the ground for 3 hours, I know it was very frustrating. It made headlines for Saturday, for Christmas Eve, and they did show a couple of people like Brian Robinson had it on Instagram and a couple of things. They did show a lot of our players and their frustrations, and when they finally got off the plane, they were very, very happy. So,
oh yeah, they tried bringing in the steps to let them out. Those broke. They brought in another set of steps from another airport. Those broke. Eventually, they had to bring in a fire department to let people down in small groups from the plane down to the ground, and it was an absolute mess. It pushed the Vikings back so that they had to skip their coaches meetings that night, and from there it was all downhill.
Yeah, it seemed like our luck. It just seems how the season has gone so far, just one thing after another. But to segue from that, the other quick hit that's at the bottom here, no surprise to any of you that have a logical brain. I know we have some people that are super homers with the team, but the Vikings are expected to keep Sam Bradford for 2017. Two reasons for that, and I think we can all agree. Sam Bradford's played well for us despite, some injuries on the line and everything else. Adrian Peterson being out, obviously. And Teddy Bridgewater's probably not going to be ready for week one. It's just the anticipation of what we've heard. So, sad day for any Sean Hill fans. I don't think he'll be on the team next year. I think they'll probably take a closer look at Taylor Heineke, assuming he doesn't kick in any doors or windows again. But that's a cool quick hit. Sam Bradford should be expected to stay. Hopefully the salary goes down a little bit, but he's played at a good level, all things considered, and he's gonna get paid because he plays quarterback. So.
Yeah, Sam Bradford has stepped in and he's been able to make some passes, be efficient, complete passes at a high ratio of success. He's even been able to take advantage of some deep balls despite that poor offensive line play at times from one specific guy on the left side. But we'll talk about him a little later.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. We're going to do some game balls, some donkeys. We're going to go into a game review because the Vikings went to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and they fell to the Green Bay Packers this weekend. We are now 7-8. I believe the Packers are 9-6, and I would think it was 38-25. It was a competitive game. It just, I think the biggest thing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Bradford's been hitting on it for about 4 weeks now in a row. When you get to the red zone, you have to score touchdowns, not field goals. Turnovers are always bad. We had 2 or 3, but we got down the field. We marched down the field twice, and we had to settle for field goals. And when you play against Aaron Rodgers, you can't do that. You have to make him turn the ball over, make him settle for field goals. And it was an ugly day. There's a story that came out in the media about it, but since we're here and I'm blabbing away now, talk about Sam Bradford. Sam had kind of a career day with us. I don't know about his overall career, but I know that Adam Thielen caught 2 touchdowns. He had a day, and we'll talk about him in a second. But Sam Bradford, I'm getting the stats up right now. The Vikings.
Yep, 382 yards, 3 touchdowns.
No picks.
No.
382 yards. That's a Drew Brees kind of day right there. Average was 7.6. That's a little bit higher than what he's used to, and 110.6 passer rating. I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't like when we throw the ball 50 times. I would like it to be in the mid-30s. But with the rushing game that we have, what do you do?
Well, the Packers scored early and often, and that forced the Vikings to move into a more up-tempo offense, try to keep up. Because let's face it, when you're going up against Aaron Rodgers and an offense like they have where Jordy Nelson is just seeming unstoppable, you've got to do whatever you can to claw points as fast as you can. And the Vikings fell into an early 14-3 hole, and then from there it all just started to keep getting further and further out of reach.
We gave a shout out to Sam Bradford. We can talk about the rushing attack, and we'll stay with the offense. Jerick McKinnon did the most of the carries, 11 attempts for 50 yards. His longest was 11. Matt Asiata, 6 for 34. His longest was 9. They both were in between 4.5 and 5.7, respectively. Sam Bradford scrambled. Adam Thielen tried to scramble once. Not a lot on the ground. Again, that's 84 yards from our running backs, and then 9 yards between our quarterback and our receiver. So there we are again, coasting at the bottom of the NFL for rushing yards per game.
The 4.7 per carry has to be a little bit more impressive for this Vikings team because they were hovering around 3 for a long time, and this run blocking seemed to be doing a more efficient job, especially against a Packers team that they're no slouches against the run. I believe they're one of the best ranked teams against the run.
Yeah, I believe I've heard that as well, which is it's crazy. Jerick had a decent day. He caught some balls too, and we can talk about that in a second. But honestly, it's been the status quo this whole season. We've just we're barely breaking anything. You know, I think our average is 79 or 80 yards a game. So, but like you said, the cool thing about this was the Jerick had 4.5, Matt Asiata had 5.7. So they're going up as far as yards per carry, which is really nice to see.
Absolutely. On to the receiving, and that's where my game ball went. I gave mine, and I believe Mr. West threw his as well to Adam Thielen. And it's hard not to with those numbers. 12 catches, 202 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had himself a day, and he's putting himself in position to make Vikings history as the first wide receiver since Sidney Rice to go over 1,000 yards for the Vikings.
It's incredible. I couldn't believe that him of all the people this year, not doubting his talent or his work ethic at all. We all expected it to be Stephon Diggs, but don't let Diggs get discredited here. He's not far behind as far as yards go. I think Adam has a couple more touchdowns. I think Diggs has 3 on the year. Adam Thielen has 5, but Diggs is not far behind him. They're both over 900 yards for the season. And, man, I'm so excited about to jump ahead of everything. Adam wrote a nice article. You guys can check it out on the Viking Age about things to look forward to in Week 17. Unfortunately, with this game, we were mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, but don't give up on the team just yet. We have a final home game, and a lot of cool things could happen. Speaking of the receivers, to brag on Adam a little bit, Adam Thielen has 960 yards on the season. 40 yards for him to break 1,000 is very achievable.
Oh, yes.
Especially against the Bears. They're not good all around. I know they beat us before, and I won't say anything else about that because any given Sunday, but I believe Stephon Diggs is at 906 or 905. So he's not far behind. And given that Bradford just threw for almost 400 yards, and those are the top 2 targets, we could do something that hasn't been done in almost, 15 years, I think?
Yeah, not since Moss and Chris Carter.
Who would have thought that with Teddy going down? I would have never guessed that.
And yet people still want to run Bradford out of town.
Idiocracy. He will get my vote all off season long. You guys will hear me singing his praises because of what he's done in the situation he's been given and the cards he's been dealt. But let me run down the stat line since I'm staring at my phone over here. Adam Thielen, 12 receptions, 202 yards, 2 touchdowns. The long was for 71. Cool fun fact about that, they showed the longest one before Randy Moss had caught a longer one before this. So second in team history in Lambeau.
Second against Green Bay.
Yep. That's what I was trying to get to. In Lambeau is what I was getting to for that. Kyle Rudolph hauled in 6 for 53. Jerick McKinnon, 5 for 35. Matt Asiata, Stephon Diggs, Charles Johnson, Cordero Patterson, and David Morgan caught a pass. Shout out to David Morgan for catching a pass through there.
Gotta love that.
Yeah, Sam Bradford spread the ball around again, man. It was a really, really high-filled passing day for him.
Now it's time to talk about the offensive line because I'm going to credit both of Minnesota's fumbles to the offensive line. The first one seemed really odd. Nick Easton, well, that's the first one I'm going to talk about anyway. Nick Easton went to snap the ball, and it looked like he thought that Bradford was right under center because he snapped it back and let go, and instead of firing it back into shotgun where Bradford was, it fell flat on the ground. And I don't even really understand how that happens. Maybe it was so cold that he thought he felt Bradford's hand there. I don't know. But either way, it was a really odd series of events that created a turnover there. The second fumble was the direct cause of just Clay Matthews rushing TJ Clemmings. And Clemmings didn't have a chance all night. He was getting just absolutely blasted by Clay Matthews. And when you got that blind side coming behind you and you think you got that split second to get off a pass, but you really don't, that's when things like the sack fumble happen.
We've been giving TJ Clemmings a hard time this year, and deservedly so, but I want to defend him, and against my will. He's originally a right tackle. I had to confirm this with Adam. He's a genius of the show. Fun fact that Adam helped me out with, too. He's the worst rated offensive lineman in football. He's playing a different position because we've had so many people go down. And I understand that's got to be a tough order to – and he got thrown into the position – he got thrown in last year as well, right?
Yeah.
He just got thrust in as a rookie. He hasn't had a lot of time to sit and I wouldn't say learn, but he's had to learn trial by fire. And now he's playing a completely different position. One, I told you guys this last week, makes me miss Matt Khalil a lot because he fared a lot better than TJ Clemmings is faring right now. And like I said, to give him a little bit of credit, yes, he's playing awful and he needs to be held accountable, but this isn't his natural position. And it was kind of news to me because I was so used to seeing him over on the left side for so long. And I was like, man, he's doing awful. I forget that he's out of position. So,
yeah, it's not so much as TJ Clemmings' fault. He got put in a position where they were hoping that he might be Matt Khalil's backup. And then when Matt Khalil goes down, they realize, okay, TJ Clemmings ain't so good here, so they bring in Jake Long. And then there goes Jake Long, so they get TJ Clemmings right back again. And it's like you said, it's him having to learn another position for another year and not getting that stability, not being able to get a feel for the reps, because playing left tackle and right tackle, even though it sounds like they should be such similar skill sets, they really aren't.
No, and that's the thing that I've learned as a fan over the years, that even the size difference that you want between guys, that you want the different mechanics that you want from the left to the right side. I've picked up a lot of that the last 2 years, and that's why I'm giving him a little bit of leeway, a little bit of cushion, because I can't imagine. I mean, he can't really do much worse than he has been. But man, that's a tall order to be asked, and such a bad situation overall for the offensive line.
Well, considering the roster, he is still the best option, even though he's struggling so badly.
That should tell you guys something.
I am still going to give him my donkey, even though I want to protect him a little bit and say those nice things, but he's still my donkey.
I think if I'm looking at the notes here, he was Kyle changed it. I thought he was TJ Clemmings was his too, but we're going to jump to the defensive side because we've covered everything on the offense so far, and I'm going to give my game ball to the guy with the most tackles and the most sacks on the day. Eric Kendricks was everywhere. He tried to prevent a touchdown in the middle, and I thought he was going to make it to stop it. I think the Packers would eventually scored anyway, but 7 tackles on the day, 7 total, 4 assists, 2.5 sacks from Eric Kendricks. He came to play, and I'm really, really happy they did. Xavier Rhodes was right behind him, 6 tackles, 1 assist. Daniil Hunter, again, 5 tackles, 3rd on the team for that game, and 1.5 sacks. He's a machine. Then we have Harrison Smith and Trey Waynes, Anthony Barr, and Terrence Newman, and so on and so forth going down. The story that we're going to talk about probably the most, and I want to get to, since I'm giving my game ball to someone in the defense, I'm giving a whole slew of donkeys to the Vikings secondary. If you guys haven't heard this story, we don't know all the details, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But the story that was reported was Mike Zimmer came up with a game plan, and because of the planes getting off in Minnesota fashion and our luck, they didn't get to have the team meeting the night before. But the game plan was set in place to cover Jordy Nelson. We all know you can't leave that kid wide open. He's going to torch you every time. Well, apparently, I'm finding out this today and yesterday, Terrence Newman was the ringleader supposedly, but Terrence Newman and Xavier Rhodes said, we're not going to follow Mike's game plan. We feel like we can do our own thing. We can cover on each side of the field. Anybody can cover Jordy Nelson was pretty much what it was boiled down to. I'm sorry. I love Terrence Newman, and he's got a great rating this year. But Terrence Newman doesn't need to be covering Jordy Nelson. We need our number one corner on their number one receiver. That's usually how it goes. But in short, the Vikings defensive backs decided to ditch the game plan, meaning the corners, and it was heir apparent from the beginning. Trey Waynes was in there a couple of times as well, and he was covering Jordy Nelson. I love Trey Waynes. I see a lot of upside in this kid. Do not put him on Jordy Nelson. Don't do it. He's not ready yet. Aaron Rodgers was picking on Trey Waynes all day long. He almost got my single-handed game ball until this story came out. So if you guys didn't know, there's something for you to think about. It's all over their articles everywhere. But there was a fiasco in the secondary.
Well, I can kind of understand where Terrence Newman is coming from if he said this, because he's been the veteran on this team. He stepped up and made some great plays. Mm-hmm. And when you've been with Zimmer as long as you have, and Zimmer says, hey, Terrence Newman, I'm sorry, but we're going to have Xavier Rhodes follow Jordy Nelson around when he plays outside the slot, when he plays on the outside. And Terrence Newman had to kind of be sitting there and saying, really, why don't you think I can cover him? Because as a cornerback, you have to think you're one of the best. You have to. You have to have that mindset when going against guys like Jordy Nelson. You do. And I can see how that would upset him in a way, but the way of handling that should have been discussing it in the player-coach meeting before the game, but guess what?
That didn't happen.
That meeting didn't happen. So it makes me wonder how much of this could have been avoided if the plane hadn't got stuck on the runway.
I tell you, man, I said it this weekend, and I don't mean to be blasphemous for any of my religious people, but I told my family I'm a religious guy myself. I said, I swear to God, God hates the Minnesota Vikings. Something has to happen all these years. No Super Bowl and all these weird things that happen, but you're exactly right. What I've learned from corners and wide receivers, they think they're the best. They think every single one of them thinks they're the best in the National Football League, and I agree that they need to have that mentality to play at a high level. It's all about a mental thing. It's not just keeping your body in shape and playing well. It's mentally too, but you can't deviate from the coach's plan. And whether that was taken away from them in a meeting or if it was just on the fly or rogue as the papers are reporting, you can't stray from it. If you're going to stray from it, you should at least bring it up. If I feel that strongly that I can do something, I would voice something to Mike Zimmer. And if he told me to kick rocks, I'd just do my job. But there was some disconnect there. You can see now that Xavier Rhodes was the first one to talk about it to the media. I really don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't want the media getting their hands on a little piece of information that they don't need to. If there's some turmoil, I'm a firm believer at my job, at work, at home, everything. Don't put your stuff out publicly. Handle it internally. Figure it out. The season's already in the garbage can pretty much. We're not going to the postseason, but man, it was a weird thing to see because all these guys believed in him a year ago. We were on a high note, and now with all the turmoil this year, there's even reports that Mike Zimmer has lost the locker room and all this.
It's gotten out of hand.
It's crazy.
And, we have our group chat that we do throughout the week. We talk football. And the first thing I said is, why is Xavier Rhodes saying this to the media? He doesn't need to explain anything to them. All he's got to say is we came out and our attack didn't work. And then you talk about that in team meetings and with the other players. That's something the media doesn't need. And what's that guy's name on the herd that fills in for Colin? Nick something?
Yeah, Nick.
Nick Wright.
That's it.
Nick Wright, the first thing, as soon as he heard this story on the show today, which was Monday, he said, why did he go right to the media? And I understand that the media is going to, these beat reporters are going to pound these players for questions that they're going to try to get headlines from.
Right.
Why give them that?
Yeah. What do you achieve by giving someone that kind of story?
I understand that he wanted to take responsibility for it. Mm-hmm. He said, I made the mistake of not doing what Zimmer said. And from there, the whole thing just blew up. Now, if this would have came out later, it would have came out with more factual details. There wouldn't have been as much speculation. During the live press conference on Facebook, if you were reading the comments, there were so many people just saying, fire Mike Zimmer, hire Gus Bradley.
So many people want Zimmer fired, and I couldn't think that that's more farther from the truth. The thing that you have to realize is earlier on in this year, and I'm sorry to go on a mini tangent, I didn't mean to cut you off, but Mike Zimmer has taken a Leslie Frazier almost worst in franchise history Tampa 2 defense and turned it into – this was just the other day when the game started. We're in the top 5 at 3 out of 4 categories. That's a direct Mike Zimmer effect. Have things gone the way that you wanted this season? None of us wanted this. We didn't want our quarterback, our running back, our tackles to go down. We've had injuries on and off. There have been games that have been this close. Blair Walsh lost us a few games. Matt Stafford and the Lions snuck up and took 2 away from us, and we ended up running away with the division that we didn't – nobody expected that. But Mike Zimmer is not the problem here. Does he need to be held accountable to a certain degree? Absolutely. But I have enough faith after seeing 3 samples of him, 3 seasons now, he will hold himself accountable. The guy loves football and he loves the team. You just have to buy into it. And you know what it comes down to? And we talked about this earlier, Adam, between you, me, and Kyle. You remember when Captain Munnerlyn came in our first season and he just did whatever he wanted, and then he said later, that was stupid. This is exactly what it is. Why is the big underlining question? We'll probably never know as fans. Probably not. But that's the first thing that I thought of. I'm like, go talk to one of your veterans. He plays your position, for God's sake. That's not a good idea. And look what you've got all to show for it this year. I know we have more losses than we should, but the defense has played pretty good all year, give or take a game or two. Why risk that? And why, with your playoff hopes on the line and a chance to go in at the most, this to this date was the most important game of the season. You've already beat Green Bay once. You did the unthinkable last year in Green Bay. You had a chance to do it again. And if you look at the score, we weren't out of it by much. So it was really frustrating to hear that. And like you said, why would you give the media anything? What do you owe them? You don't owe them anything.
You know why the Vikings lost to the Packers, right?
What's that?
It's because Adam Carlson wasn't in the house.
Oh, man, that's so true. You guys, all right, starting right now, we're starting a GoFundMe for once a year to get Adam to every game around there, and Kyle as well, all right?
It's been good times. It has.
I'm sorry to go on a rant, guys. I had to keep that around. I'm going to pull the stats back up on my phone, but if you guys missed that fiasco, it's all over the news. You can read into it if you want. Like I said, I don't think we're going to get a full story. They've already started to downplay it and say there's no issues. They're kind of trying to cover their rear ends, but get into the special teams and the field goal and all that, or the kicking unit as well. David Morgan returned 1 for 11. Adam Thielen for 19 for kick returns. Marcus Sherrill returned 2, average 10. Kai Forbath is doing well. He missed an extra point, which is kind of bad, but there was some pretty bad weather there, wind and terrible temperatures, but he made both of his field goals, which is really important. And then Jeff Locke, not the best day punting for him, but not the worst of the season. 5 total. His average was 37.2. His net was 29.2. So
not great.
Yeah, he didn't have a really good day like we needed, but Mike Zimmer addressed that in the conference as well. He said pretty much we did everything wrong, which, you know what? I want to say this too, that I really like. You remember last week, and if you guys didn't hear this from Mike Zimmer last week, we felt kind of flat against Indy. Everybody just looked like they didn't want to be there. He said, I don't think we didn't play hard. I just don't think we played good.
Right.
The team gave out and gave 100% effort. They just didn't put it in the right way, but he did brag on the team. He said, I thought you played really hard.
And let's talk about Zimmer saying that Anthony Barr came out and played hard after being called out, which is good to see.
Yeah, and that wasn't something I was expecting to hear. You could kind of see it from once Zimmer brought it to light. You go back and you look at replays of games, you look at stats, you start to see, he's not having as good of a year as he's had before, but it's good to see that he can be called out and checked. That's what I like is, when players, we do this at work all the time, don't take it personal. If it's your job and you're not doing it, just go do your job. Don't take it to heart. Yep.
I agree totally.
It was an ugly game, guys. It was a disappointing loss. You guys know if anybody in the group chat besides Adam gets more passionate about a Packers win or loss, it's me. I hate losing to Green Bay. They're the rival. Respect the hell out of Aaron Rodgers, even though I hate his guts. He's having an MVP season. Jordy Nelson went off. Cool thing about that day, the Vikings had a lot of total offense for yards. We had 2 receivers that almost went for 400 yards together. It was one of these new era NFL games that you like to watch because everybody's catching and everybody's throwing, and there was a lot of high flying action. But yeah, it did, like I said earlier, it did eliminate us from the playoffs. Transition to that. We lost to the Bears in Chicago. We haven't did well there a lot over the last 8 years, but they do come to us. They have Matt Barkley at quarterback. Jay Cutler's done for the season. I do predict us to win this game, to go out on a high note just because we're at home. But like we were saying earlier, you guys should watch this game. Adam wrote an article on it, like I said. Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs are who I'm watching Sunday. I'm going strictly as a fan. I'm not going to do anything for the show. I'm going to watch Sam Bradford throw the hell out of the ball, and I hope he throws for another 400-yard day. I want to see at least one, if not both of these guys, get over 1,000 yards. I do believe Adam Thielen's going to get it. I'm not sure about Diggs. He's going to have close to 100 yards, but this could be the day, and I'm sure he wants it just as bad. They're going to have something to play for on Sunday since they're not going to the postseason.
What I'm going to be watching for, aside from the wide receivers, is the pass rush. Now, it seemed like Aaron Rodgers had plenty of time in the pocket and was making plays all over the place, but he got sacked 4 times and got hit 10 times in that game.
We always seem to knock him around. It's amazing for how well he plays.
But then you look at the stats and you're like, he lit it up.
Mm-hmm.
These
were blown coverages, like we were saying, from the secondary. We got to the quarterback. When you let the guys, when you miss tackles and you blow coverages, that's how you score touchdowns. I think Jordy Nelson and Aaron Rodgers' stats for the first half are what you would see in a full game from other teams. It's ridiculous.
Now, what happened, I believe last time the Vikings played the Bears, they had a really hard time getting to the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're going to see some more of that pass rush because I want to see some unity from this team. That's what I want to see. I want to see Minnesota come out and play tight, strong defense to help silence some of these critics that say that Zimmer's lost the defensive backs or that the defensive backs won't listen or do whatever's asked of them. Because let's be honest, they seem like a group of guys that have been together long enough that they know that they need to execute the game plan as written down by Mike Zimmer in order to succeed. Zimmer hasn't really steered them wrong yet.
Yeah, that's the thing that threw me off the most about it is if you were the Jacksonville Jaguars or you're the Cleveland Browns, what do you really had to play for? Your season's been done for a while. Your head coach may or may not have a job. Jacksonville's already gotten rid of their head coach. I could see that, but Mike Zimmer came in, had almost a winning season the first go-around, won the division last year, and if we win now, we'll still finish 500, and we have a ton of injuries. This guy knows what he's doing. There's a reason why he got hired. Play for him. Just give him a shot. What has he done? But I know he's very hard-nosed. They said that's a lot of where he rubs people wrong. He rubbed people wrong in Cincinnati. He's very, very hard on his players, but I believe in that old-school mentality, and I don't know if they do. If someone's hard on you that much, they see the potential in you, and I know he sees that in this team. We've seen the way they played.
Zimmer said during his press conference today that maybe he shouldn't be so honest with the media when he talks to him about the things with his players. And I couldn't have smiled more when he said that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being Bill Belichick at the stand.
No, absolutely not.
Like you said earlier, you don't know the media anything. You can cover it up or whatever. I think we said that earlier about when AP said he was coming back. Why would you tell them that? Zimmer will play stupid up there because he has a reason and a rhyme for it. So I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. And I quite comically, I laugh at it because it's hilarious when he gets up there and shuts down people like our guy Chris that I can't freaking stand that asks the dumbest questions. And he gets the same look from Adrian Peterson and Mike Zimmer every week. Like, bro, why are you asking me this? Stop.
A reporter at this press conference, I don't even remember who it was, but he asked, "Are you disappointed that your team isn't making the playoffs?" What? I'm sure he's ecstatic about it. What?
Mike Zimmer said, "Come on, man. What kind of question is that? You know how I feel. This is elementary stuff, man." But it was super funny to listen to. I don't want to say we're already done with the show. We're close to it. We talked about what's coming up, but don't give up on the team. I've seen a lot of chatter about, like you said earlier, about Zimmer needs to be fired. I'm going to tell you straight up, I want to do a mini rant, maybe even an article, and if Adam wants to take it and run with it on the Viking Age or whatever. But Mike Zimmer is not the problem. Sam Bradford's not the problem. I'm going to tell you right now in a little teaser, we need a good offensive coordinator. Kyle West brought up a great stat. Shout out to Kyle West. We were 5-2 when Norv Turner left. If you thought Norv Turner was bland or whatever else. Something happened when he left because the team hasn't been the same. Yes, some injuries happen. I get it. We need a good offensive coordinator. We need a lot of help on the line, and I don't know how we're going to do it. I have my reasons and ways. Adam knows where I'm going with this with a certain running back.
Left tackle.
There, we can start there. That can be the number one emphasis. Find a left tackle. But re-sign Matt Khalil, get an offensive coordinator, fix the line. I think we should get rid of AP. I don't think we're getting any value for him for a trade, so you might as well just cut him. There's a lot of areas to worry about, but Mike Zimmer's not at the top of the list anywhere there.
Yeah, this offseason should have us with some interesting shows with a lot going on. There's going to be many interesting topics swirling around the Vikings, even though there isn't going to be Vikings football. And maybe we'll even talk a little bit about the other games that are going on in the playoffs at the end of shows or something. But this looks to be another drama-filled offseason for the Minnesota Vikings. So we should have plenty to discuss.
If you guys are watching with us live and you care, the Detroit Lions are in Dallas playing the Cowboys. I'm rooting for Detroit, so Green Bay doesn't get in the postseason by some miracle of God. But they're tied 21-21 at the half, and it's going down in Dallas right now. It's a good game to be watching for other football news. But Sunday, 1 o'clock, we're going to be watching Chicago and Minnesota for the final game of the 2016 season.
I am scrolling right now because I thought that we had a question of the week.
We did.
And I'm scrolling to find it.
I'll find it for you, sir. You guys bear with us while we find this around. We kind of went straight through it. I'm going to get it for you.
All right, if you're doing the hunting, I'll do the update on the Survival League.
Do it.
Survival League did not go well for people this week. 5 teams eliminated from contention. Every team remaining picked the San Diego Chargers to beat the Cleveland Browns. And that did not happen. So everybody has at least one strike now. Jesus, Purple People Eaters, and Purple Waynes each have 1 strike. Me, Bleeds Purple, and the Aussie Viking has 2. And that is everybody that is left for now. This will keep going through the playoffs, so we should have some fun there. I can't wait to see who ends up winning this because this has been going on all season. It might run through the entire season and go into the playoffs. We might even have 2 teams left at the end of the playoffs, after the Super Bowl. Who knows?
That's crazy. You guys,
we got some good people picking this year, that's for sure.
I like it. You guys can thank Adam, too. He's got a really cool gift, and he hasn't told any of us about it yet because it's really, really near and dear. So
I told you, and you went and bought one.
Oh, that's true. Didn't you buy 2, though? You bought something else, right?
Oh, I got a box of pretty cool stuff.
See, Adam, you guys can thank Adam for this. He's got really cool ideas for gifts. It's really cool that you guys have been killing it this year, though. It makes the competition a lot better. I did find the social media question. December 18th, we did it right after, I believe, Indy game. And I asked, what is the biggest area of concern for the team thus far? And, for instance, I thought offensive line, running back production, no deep passes. We had a lot of people comment, so I'm going to go through these and give you guys shout-outs. The ever-faithful listener, Thomas Buge, said O-line solves most of our issues. Second, I would say safety depth, which was very interesting. I can't say that I'm here or there on Anderson Deo. You guys know my thoughts on Harrison Smith, but that was a good one. Craig Morley says O-line and Adrian returning. We need to throw the O-line on the fire and start from scratch.
I can't disagree.
That's one way to do it. Stephen Osborne, my favorite comment of the whole post, is all of the above an option? Yes. In some way, shape, or form, it needs to be. Jacob Knob says O-line and we need Teddy back, which is interesting. You guys know I'm an advocate for Sam Bradford, but it would be interesting.
I love Teddy too.
I love Teddy. I'm never going to say anything bad about him. Johnny Buckland says, ... no first-round draft pick, ... That's true.
But they do have a Sam Bradford for next year.
We have a Sam Bradford, and as one of the things that Adam put, I don't know if you put this in your article or not, but I did see a comment on it. We want the Vikings to win next week because we will split in the division at 3-3, which is always good. We'll finish 8-8 on the season, and the Eagles get a later pick in the first round. So you should definitely root for that so they don't get their money's worth. The last one that's showing up here is Matt Massey. Coaching, I think we need a new strength and conditioning coach, which is a very, very good observation because we were getting so many torn pectoral muscles.
But they just got a new one this season.
This is true. This is very true. A new offensive coordinator. We can keep Shermer somewhere else. We just need a real OC and possibly a new DC. First a DUI, and now he's proven inconsistency and not keeping our guys mentally prepared. That was a very in-depth comment, and I can't disagree with it. I like Pat Shermer. I wanted to give him more time with the line. Kind of got thrust into that OC position when Norv left. Defensive coordinator, huh? That's not a bad observation. I didn't think about that. Not a bad observation. I'm not sure if I go left or right on that yet either, but thank you guys for commenting. I want to give you guys all shout-outs with your names personally. The other thing I'm going to post up, and I'm going to start heading up to social media because we always seem to have it or don't have it, and I just wanted to be consistent. We're going to ask the fans if you guys want to chime in and get your comments ready. What did you guys think about this going rogue thing? What's going on? If you were the coach, what would you do? How would you feel? If you were the player, give us your thoughts about the supposed rogueness that went on in the game plan being deviated from.
We did get a comment in the live chat from Kathy who says she agrees with you 100% on the Adrian Peterson situation.
Yep, you guys know my thoughts. I have no disrespect to the man. I know we're not all perfect in our personal lives and we make mistakes, but I think his time in Minnesota should be done.
That's about all I have for this week. I just want to remind you guys to head on over to the Viking Age. You can check out my work there. I know The Walking Dead is on a break, but you can go to Undead Walking if you're into zombies. And I'm always talking about the comics that are coming out or the awesome new game that's came out, A New Frontier from Telltale. If you haven't played that yet or any of those games from Telltale, they're fantastic. Great games. And you can listen to the podcast on the Viking Age, iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker. We're all over the place, man. There's no real excuse not to listen unless you think we suck. Then you don't have to listen.
Hey, even if you think we suck, you don't have to listen. That's fine. Go here on this link right below my name. We need 1,000 subscribers. We're going to keep pushing until we get it. As soon as you guys give us 1,000 subscribers, we're going to upgrade this show even more. We used to be on Skype audio. Now we're on Google Hangouts. We're going to go straight to YouTube Live. It's going to get bigger and better, and we need your help. So do that for us, please.
Yeah, we're doing everything we can aside from buying followers because we think that's cheap. We could go and buy 1,000 likes and start doing all this stuff, but that's not, there's something unscrupulous about that. That just doesn't feel good.
It's not authentic, and I don't think it's going to give us that personal touch that we have with people like Thomas Bugge and Dorian Foley and others that always are consistently in the chat. And our guy Tommy Gunn, shout out to him. We haven't shouted him out this episode, so
he's great too.
Everybody that does this, I would rather win slow and steady than to do that cheap stuff either. I'm right there with Adam.
Absolutely. That, I believe, is all that we have for this week.
That's it for me. Sorry to jump. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. Be safe around New Year's. There's a lot of DUIs that happen there. If you drink, don't drive. If you drive, don't drink. Have a plan. Be smart. Be safe.
Yep, and if you're in my neighborhood, give me a call instead of driving because I'll be out and about. And I don't drink anymore. 4 years sober, but I'm going to be out there shuttling my friends around. So
I don't work for a little bit after I get back to El Paso, which is Friday. I will be in the El Paso area. If there's anyone on this show that lives in El Paso and is hearing this, message the podcast page on Facebook. If you need a ride, I will help you. I'm always there. We want to keep our people around. We want you guys to be safe, all right?
Hey, you might be able to get some El Paso drinking buddies too.
Ooh, that would be fun. I need a Vikings fan out there in Dallas country.
It's always nice to have backups. It's like my group of 3 Vikings fans around here. And then it's maybe 60% Packer and then the rest Lions. It's a rough situation around here. I got a couple Raiders friends, but that situation with Carr, I feel so bad for them.
Yeah, let's talk about that for just 10 seconds. With everything that's happened, it's really skewed, and I'm just going to go ahead and be bold and say it. Other than Kansas City, I don't see a really huge threat. Maybe Pittsburgh. Depends on if they'll play each other, Kansas City and Pittsburgh. I think New England's going to go to the Super Bowl again. We might see New England and Dallas, which would be insane. But as far as injuries, 3 star players on 3 different teams. 2 of them had the same injury. 2 are quarterbacks. Yeah. Shout out to Marcus Mariota, Derek Carr, and Tyler Lockett. They all had leg injuries, I believe. Fibula for Marcus Mariota and Derek Carr. wish you guys a speedy recovery, man. We try to keep it as classy as possible here. That sucks. The Raiders especially were surging, and I think besides the line, it was all because of Derek Carr. He's played phenomenal for a second-round quarterback. Marcus Mariota took a big leap from last year, and Tyler Lockett has burned us a couple times playing. He's a very, very big player for Seattle, so we wish all of them a speedy recovery.
It always sucks to see talented players go down. We saw a lot of that this year with the Vikings, and a lot of us had watched the draft and hoped for guys like Carr or pieces of the puzzle like Lockett. And it's sad to see these guys that could go on to just do great things have everything shut down. The Raiders now have to go forward with Matt McGloin, and don't get me wrong, I like Matt McGloin. He can do some stuff, but he's not Carr.
Right. Yeah, it kind of, I want to say the word dilutes a little bit of what you've been used to. Obviously, he's not going to be up to the caliber as Carr. I'm not taking anything away from either one of the guys because he would have beat him out to be the starter. You're used to a certain chemistry, a certain formula. But, hey, man, next man up mentality. Maybe he'll come in there and light it up and they can go somewhere in the postseason. You never know because they've already clinched a spot. So, but sorry to Raider Nation. We know how that feels. We feel your pain.
NFL injuries, man. There's no way around it, and all you can do is do what you can. It's a tough situation. On that note, once again, thank you everyone for listening, and remember to stay classy, Minnesota.